Hi everybody, it's wonderful to come talk to you today. I'm going to do a tag today, and my friend Mary Glitzy Fritzy wrote a wonderful tag about sharing our memories for each grade in grade school, and I thought it was such a wonderful tag, and I've watched a couple other gals do the tag and I enjoyed it so much. So I am excited to do it, and I think it's the kind of tag that it'll help you get to know me, and also it might be fun so you can relate to some of the things that I went through in grade school also. So let me tell you, in 1961, I was in kindergarten. I was a very quiet, very shy, introverted little girl, and in kindergarten, it was raining, so we had recess inside the class, and all the kids were playing, and the teacher had bought some new toys for the class, and I was excited about it, and I had my eye on this wonderful doll, and so did a boy named Randy. He wanted to play with the doll too. So we ended up tugging on the doll. He wanted it, I wouldn't give up, and finally we tugged so hard we broke the doll. So fast forward, recess is over, and the class is sitting there, and we're having crackers and milk, and the teacher announces that she's so proud of the class for playing so well, except for Susan Gaety, who broke the new doll. Oh my Lord. The class booed. They booed me. I was 6 years old and I was a doll killer. It's amazing I never ended up on Dateline. I mean, since that was my beginning. But anyway, I was absolutely humiliated. It took me the whole year to get over that experience in kindergarten. Moving on to first grade, we moved and I started a new school, a public school. And I don't remember much about first grade except that I was seated next to a very cute little boy named Art, and I would sit next to him for the whole year. And if you are around my age, I don't know if you're going to remember, but there was an actor called Steve McQueen. Well, Art looked like a little Steve McQueen, so and he kind of had that kind of tough persona about him also. But anyway, I remember it was Thanksgiving and we were drawing turkeys, and I remember I looked down and my crayons were gone, and Art had this way of, if I turned my head, he would steal my crayons, or he'd steal my ruler, or he'd steal my books, and then I would like cry and then beg him to give me back my things, and he would just like be like, real like cool hand Luke about it, like give me back one crayon or one book, or I mean, it was like amazing. He taught me many, many lessons, and probably the one I will remember the most is beware of men that look like Steve McQueen. Second grade, I'm not quite as shy. I'm a little bit more outgoing, and I'm getting a lot more confidence in school. I do love school in grade school. So in second grade, the teacher says, okay, we're going to take an IQ test, and we've got 15 minutes to take this test, and no talking, and just do the test. And so I decide, for some reason, I have no idea why, I just looked at the clock and thought, 15 minutes? I don't need 15 minutes to do this test. I'm going to do it in 5. Why would I think that? Looking back, I have no idea why that was in my head. But so I watched the clock and I let 10 minutes go by, and I'm doing the test, and then oops, the test is more than that one page. I turned it over and there was more of it. Okay, I didn't get to finish the test in time. A couple weeks later, my mother gets a frantic call from the school, and she has to go up to the school and actually talk to the principal about why I scored a 63 on the IQ test. Oh, good Lord. My only explanation to my mom was that I was just feeling lucky that day, and I wanted to kind of beat the clock. So perhaps that's where my mom got the idea that perhaps I was born high. So moving right along, third grade, okay, now I am completely out of my shell. I will not stop talking. I am moved 16 times in third grade for talking too much to my neighbor. But I also start getting bullied a little bit by the cool girls. and I remember their names too, Kathy, Wendy, and Carol. And they were kind of pushing the envelope with me, you know, kind of making fun of how I dressed and how I looked. And, you know, I was having none of that. And somehow I knew at 9 years old that I had to stand up to them. And I don't know how I knew that. I actually didn't have any of those skills. I didn't have anywhere where I'd learn those skills. But I just figured in my heart, you know, I had to nip this in the bud. So Wendy and Carol came over, and they were kind of making fun of me like they usually did. And Wendy said, well, I have to leave school early today because the dentist says I have a rotten tooth and I have to have it pulled. And I looked right at her and I said, you know what? I don't think it's your tooth that's rotten. I think it's you that's rotten. Why would I say that? It just fell out. And everybody's jaw just dropped open because nobody ever spoke back to Wendy. I mean, she was like the biggest girl in school and she was kind of scary. And she just looked at me and she said, you are mean. And then all her, you know, cronies, they all said, wow, you are mean. But you know what? Maybe that was mean. But they never teased me again. They never bullied me again. I stood my ground and I never had any trouble after that. Okay, so 4th grade. There are a couple things that I truly remember about 4th grade that I will never forget. And the one thing is that my teacher in 4th grade was, her name was Mrs. Tubich. Yeah, Mrs. Tubich. I don't think I really have to say a whole lot about a teacher of a 4th grade class that has the name Tubich, but needless to say, it was a year of a lot of note passing and a lot of jokes and a lot of fun. And I also remember in 4th grade, it was the year that I would meet the most beautiful, handsome boy that looked like Paul McCartney, and he had transferred over from another school, and his name was John Hammond, and he was absolutely the most beautiful boy I had ever laid my eyes on. And he was the most popular boy in school, and every Friday he would release a list of who his favorite girls were. Number 1, Gail. Number 2, Ellen. And usually I fell right around, I was between 3 and 6. I don't think I ever fell below 6. But I do remember I tried so hard. Different hairdos, different outfits. I tried so hard to work my way up that list. So I do remember that about 4th grade. I think that's where my love of trying to be the best I can be, maybe that's where that came from. I don't know. So moving on to 5th grade. 5th grade was I was 11 years old. I was developing. I had put on some extra weight. I was separated from some of my very best friends in grade school. And I just felt completely out of sorts. And I think that was probably my very first bout of some real depression as a child. I was just having a very off year. And the thing I remember most was those wonderful songs that came on the radio by the Beatles and the Beach Boys that saved my life. But I do remember I had to do a book report. And it was on Thomas Jefferson. And the book report was to get up in front of the class and talk for 15 minutes about what I thought of the book. And I was, you know, even though I had sort of come out of my shell, at 11 years old, I was sort of going back in my shell. I remember like my skin had started to break out a little bit, and I just didn't have a lot of confidence, and I sure didn't have the confidence for public speaking. So I got up there and I was so scared, and I had stayed up the night before because I was just so scared to get up in front of the class and talk. So I had my little Thomas Jefferson book that I had read 14 times. I think I memorized the whole book, so I was prepared to talk to my fellow classmates about this book. And I just looked around the class and I looked at my teacher and I said, I can't do this. And I ran to my seat and I sat down. And it's funny because the reaction of the teacher was, well, Susan, you're going to have to get over that. And then she just went on to a different subject. And it was so odd. I think what I did was that my fellow classmates, they didn't tease me, they didn't laugh. It's like they didn't know what to do. They were so stunned. So I just hung my head in shame. And at 3:15 when school got out, I ran all the way home. And I just cried and cried and cried. And I remember I had the record Paperback Writer by the Beatles and Sloop John B by the Beach Boys. And I played it and played it and played it. And I was just crushed. Yeah. The following year, I turned 12. And of all the grades in grade school, my very happiest year was 6th grade. I came into my own. I lost all the weight that I had put on the year before. I lost it. And the most popular boy in school, John Hammond, who later became an actor in the movies, I not only moved up to number 1 on his list, but he burned my name into his arithmetic book. So you can imagine what that did for my self-esteem. If I had, just a little bit of a doubt that, I was an okay girl, well, now there was proof because the most popular boy burned my name into his arithmetic. I mean, he burned it into his arithmetic book. And I think that boy did more for me in making me feel good that I could be accepted and not bullied. And I sure wasn't the prettiest girl in 6th grade, but I had something. The other thing that made me so happy about 6th grade is I had a very best friend in grade school that I loved. I loved her so much. I love her to this day, and her name was Ellen, and we wrote songs together, and we listened to Beatle records together, and we went shopping together, and you name it, we did it. And she was in my class that year, so it was heaven. I had my boyfriend John, and I had Ellen, my best friend. And that spring, The Sound of Music was the most popular movie in the country. And for recital that spring, we got to sing all the songs from The Sound of Music. And I got to sing Edelweiss. And my mom was there. My mom never went to any school functions, but she went to that one. And all my friends' parents were there, and we were all singing these songs from The Sound of Music. Climb Every Mountain. I could cry just thinking about it. So that night, it was 1967, and I was graduating from 6th grade, and all my friends were with me that night. We were in the auditorium, and we were singing these wonderful songs, and everybody was on their feet clapping. And my mom was there. It was such a magical night. I can remember what the sunlight looked like that night walking home. And there was so much beautiful anticipation of the upcoming summer vacation, and then in the fall I would be starting junior high school. So, and my mom was there. I think this tag is just so endearing, and I think anybody who does it, I think it really shines a light on who they are and how they got that way. Anybody who is watching this, could you please consider yourself tagged? And for my beautiful, wonderful subscribers, if you want to tell me some of your stories, either write me privately or put it in the comments or make a video. Thank you, Mary, for writing such a wonderful tag. And I do hope that everybody does the tag, and especially my friend Wanda, Lady W, I am tagging you. I would absolutely love to hear the memories that you have from your grade school days. And also Cheryl from Free Range Diva, I am tagging you, and I would absolutely love to hear what your experiences have been. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you, Mary, for writing such a cool tag. You're such a cool gal. And thank you, everybody out there, for sticking with me and doing this tag with me. It was so fun. So you have a wonderful week, and I will see you on Friday. 1963. It's right here. I was in 3rd grade, and they sent me home. They sent me home that afternoon because President Kennedy had been shot. And I walked down that street there, and I got home and my mother was crying. The nation cried. That would shape my childhood and how I felt about things for the rest of my life. It's the big things. The little things you put in your pocket. The big things you hold in your hands.